Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Before we get too far into this, I want to say thank you to everybody who has recently subscribed. Since the video of the Garden Grove Camaro did well, we picked up almost 300 subscribers. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for that. Today we're going to be doing something similar with our 69 Nova project. Some of you may have seen this come on our channel or on our Facebook, Instagram. When we did the Memorial Day weekend thrash to get it together, I will post a link to that video in the description. This video is actually more about the history of the car with me, how long the history with the we're gonna cut that out, maybe, if I can figure that out, how to do that. And anyway, gonna go over the car's history with me as far as I know it. I don't know who owned it before me, but what I can tell you guys is I got the car about 4 years ago, and I found it in a junkyard. It was kind of a birthday present to myself. I was working for this shop, and he had a really big yard full of pre-76 mostly cars. Model A's, vans, muscle cars, dirt late models, like just all kinds of stuff. And I didn't really have a project car at the time, and I needed one. I wanted one. So I went wandering around, and I looked at a bunch of different cars, and I actually walked past this Nova a handful of times before I really stopped and looked at it. And I looked at the VIN tag, or the fender tag, and realized it was a 69, and took to looking at the car all the way over, and it's actually a really solid car, and it was a really good base for a hot rod. It was is a factory manual steering, manual drum brake, stripper model car. It came with a rubber floor mat, bench seat. The only amenities it had over base was a stereo with a single speaker. It had a heater, and it was a V8 with a turbo 350. Other than that, it didn't have any options. So I thought that would make a perfect hot rod. Made a deal with the guy for the car with the rear differential. You'll see in the pictures, as you see in the pictures, it didn't have a rear diff in it when I got it. It didn't have an engine, it didn't have a transmission, it didn't have a master cylinder, it didn't have a steering gear. I mean, someone had gutted this car. Then, like I say, I made a deal to buy the car with a rear diff, and then later on I ended up buying an engine and a transmission from the guy to put in the car. It was a small block 400 and a turbo 400 automatic. And that's what I originally started this project with. The original idea of this project, beyond being a project car, was to just make a daily out of it, just real quick out of junkyard parts. And I essentially did that, but I went forward and then I went backwards for a little bit. What happened is I got the engine and transmission set in the car, and I got it running. I didn't do anything to clean it up. Like, I just wanted to make sure that it ran. I wanted to hear the car make noise, whatever the case may be. After I did that, I got a call for some work on a friend's car, and he had a pile of late 70s, early 80s day 2 type parts. The gold Moroso valve covers and air cleaner, spread bore Holley. He had a master cylinder for the car. He had a wiring harness for the car. Just a bunch of little things that I needed to put the car together. And that really ended up helping determine that the car would be built this mid-70s, maybe even late 70s Day 2 style. And so I put the car together like that over a period of time, about 12 weeks or so, and drove it around the first time, and it ran all right. It had a points ignition in it, and at that point in time I just couldn't get a good set of points. I had set the dwell as it should be, the timing was right, but it just kept burning up points. And in that video you can hear that it wasn't exactly happy. Alright, here we go! Down the road. So I kind of got that sorted. I put another set of points in it, and the car had been running decent. And I pulled it out, and I was like, well, let's see if it's fast. And I stood on it, and it broke. The junkyard transmission, go figure. And at that point, I needed some money, and I was going to sell the car. And what ended up happening, what it shook out to, is I pulled the engine and transmission out of the car, took out a loan against it for the money that I needed, and it just sat for the next year or so, while I started an apprenticeship at a machine shop and got to learn all about that in that first little bit. And then I started building an engine for the car at the machine shop. That engine is 358 cubic inches. It's 11 1/4 to 1. It's got a pretty decent cam in it. It's 488, 509 lift, 234, 244 at 050, and 107 degree lobe separation. So I was putting together a pretty hot motor for it, streetwise anyways. I mean, it pretty healthy street strip bracket type engine. And then I got a job offer down here in Texas. So I moved down here to Texas, and I left the car in Wyoming, and in the shop that I had there, with the intention of going back up and getting it, bringing it down here to get running. Well, COVID happened like 6 months after I moved to Texas, and travel restrictions, quarantines, etc., etc. I couldn't do it at the time. So fast forward to November of 2020, and I'm finally ready to go get the car from Wyoming, and I go up and I get it. And what's funny about that is I was getting a hold of friends to hang out with in Wyoming when I went to pick the car up. And one of the friends is my now girlfriend. We were neighbors there, and I got a hold of her about hanging out, and she was like, well, if you need somewhere to stay, you can crash on the couch. And so had I not been going to get my car, my Nova, I don't think that I would actually be with the girl that I'm with now. We've been together almost 2 years now. So that's one more cool little detail about the car that makes it important in my life, and part of why I'm sharing it and its progress and its story with you. So I moved it, brought it down here to Texas, and it sat some more. Just life kept getting in the way of this car all the way through, but I kept gathering parts for it. One of the cool things about this car is there's not very much on it that's brand new. I think the pedal set is all that's brand new in this car, and the wiring harness. Sorry, the wiring harness. Everything else is some old part. Some of it's from friends, some of it's from places I've worked, some of it's out of my personal stash. But I think that makes the car really cool in the sense that it's a bunch of old cars that may or may not be on the road anymore, and all of those parts that people saved their pennies and dimes for, all wrapped up in this one car, whether they're friends or me or whatever. And I think it's super cool that all of that stuff is continuing to live on through this one car. You can see in some of the earlier photos This Nova was never hot rodded until I got it. It had the stock exhaust on it, stock size, the stock 14 front steel wheels. I mean, it never got messed with. It's got a student parking pass in it from the University of Wyoming in Laramie from 1989, I believe it is. And until I brought the car down here to Texas, actually, I believe that it was in the Laramie area its entire life. It was sold at Berman Chevrolet, which is now running under a different name. But another funny detail about that is the gentleman who owned the machine shop that I apprenticed at bought his little Geo Metro from that same dealership, Berman Chevrolet in Laramie. And I always thought it was funny to come out of the machine shop and see those two cars sitting together, little 91 Geo Metro sedan and my 69 Nova, having been sold at the same dealership in the same area several years apart, and then to be sitting together. You guys get what I'm saying. So I guess I'm not really sure where I'm going here. That's the majority of the history on the car. It's just always been meant to be a really fun, dirt cheap, budget type hot rod. Here's how the car sits today. As you saw, or maybe didn't see in the Memorial Day weekend thrash, we got a motor that was sitting under a shelf. It's a made in Mexico 350 4-bolt main, you know, that kind of stuff. 994 heads. It's got an Edelbrock Performer intake. It's got a Barry Grant 750 on it, a set of hooker headers with a 4-inch collector. It's got an HEI. Only thing it's got to run is the alternator. It sounds like it's got a cam in it. It runs like it's got a little bit of a cam in it. It's not a bad little combination. To take it to the track, we need to get a 1-piece dampener. I need to put the Lakewood bell housing in it. Need a drive shaft loop. Found a set of radials and some aluminum wheels to put on it. These are bias plies that I found at a tire shop back in Wyoming. Pretty Spartan interior. Need to get a roll bar. Thinking about getting a Lakewood 3-point bar just for that day 2 look. Here's your view. Now, there's my camper. We'll talk about that on our other channel. That we'll talk about another time. Set of make waves, gauges. It's a really basic day 2 car. Got some stuff to wrap up on it still. A little bit of wiring stuff. Got to put the inner fenders back in it. Got to get hood hinges and put the hood back on it. Like I say, just a few different things that needs to be done, but it is a runner these days, and I think that's pretty cool considering where it started. Battery's not in it right now, and I've been having a issue with the fuel system. I got a bad batch of fuel, and then I got a tank that sucked up a bunch of dirt. Guess it's not your car, so you're getting towed home in it. Apparently we got a little bit of water in our fuel. You know how it goes, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're smarter than me and you just go buy a new tank, which is what I'm going to do next. But I've taken it out around town a few times. I've been towed home with it once. My girlfriend and I have taken it on date night a couple times. You know, taking it to the store, run errands. It's a pretty good little street combination. It's got like a 350 gear. Like I say, we'll see how it does as is, and then we will do some upgrades. Like I was saying, my buddy has a set of AFR 215 heads that I'm going to put on this. I've got the cam out of the other engine, and those AFRs are small chamber, so it'll bump the compression up a little bit. And then that Offie Port Sonic intake is around here somewhere. Oh, it's on the other engine. I don't know. Should I point the camera at the engine? Huh? No. Note to self, since there's no shroud. I guess another funny detail is, as I started gathering parts up for the car, initially I found an old piece of paper from back when I was in school, like maybe 14 or 15, and it's a whole bunch of scribblings of a 69 Nova that I would have put together when I was 15 or 16, and it turns out that a lot of the parts that I got for the car at that time, like the Edelbrock intake, the Holley carb, the hooker headers, etc., were all the parts that I wanted when I was a kid. So when I finally got to drive the car the first time, it was like getting to drive that high school dream car for the very first time. Even though I've driven a bunch of fast cars, cool cars throughout my career, throughout my life, getting to drive that one car I put together in high school as a dream, you know, in my head, at 31, getting to finally drive it was kind of like coming home. In a way, you car guys will understand that. But anywho, what the idea is to take this up to our local drag strip here sometime in September or October, and we're just going to do some passes with it as it sits and try to tune it into the best pass we can get out of it on street tires. I've also got a set of center lines and a set of slicks that we're going to try out and see what kind of difference that makes. But just going to do a drag test with it, with what you guys would do buying stuff off a marketplace or Craigslist, if that's still around. I don't know. I spend all my time on Facebook Marketplace these days. If that's something that you're into, let me know. I've got a couple cars around here we can do stuff like that with. We can go further with the Nova. We've got some options there. Nitrous tunnel ram. You know, we can play around. If you guys want to see that, let me know. But other than that, after the drag tests, I plan to do a few road trips with it. I'm going to keep it a pretty streetable type car. It'll be pretty rowdy, I think, by the end, but it'll still be fairly streetable. I think it'll have good street manners. Being a manual and everything like that will really help it drive around a little better in traffic and that kind of deal. Otherwise, I'm gonna continue to make videos of other projects, and I'll update you guys on this Nova as time goes on. Again, thanks for watching, and if you guys are into merchandise at all, we have hats, t-shirts, stickers, and koozies in our web store, www.traditionovertrend.net/shop, and I'll put that link in the description as well. Thanks again to everybody who subscribed recently, and y'all have a good night. Cut. Cut. No. 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 Nope. Nope. That's not it.